Hey, we're back with our Retire Early Lifestyle Whoppers. We call them Whoppers, and we got Whoppers for you. We like talking about the different Whoppers that affect our lifestyle, whether we're at home or abroad, traveling, Mexico at the moment, and we're back at the beach. And there are reports that as we speak, so-called dust clouds are coming off of the Sahara in Africa. I mean, I don't know if you can even believe this storyline. You know, there's a saying about how, if you want a lie to be believed, it should be as big as possible. And I'm not saying dust clouds are a lie. It's just that, it's just not something. And the way the articles are written, there's tells in the way they write these articles. I mean, look, North America is huge. When you say a dust storm is going to, because this is what the article said, it's just going to affect Florida and a couple of southern states and Texas. Now, that may not sound like much to, some people, but that's a huge area. And so just to put things in perspective, these run-of-the-mill dust storms, as we're told, are going to affect an area that encompasses a geographical area of many and several countries. Smaller countries like Panama, Ecuador, Costa Rica, it would easily cover all of those areas, including all of the North Coast, and they said the Caribbean.
One of the things really squelching is this. Now, if you are going to the Bahamas, possibly southern Florida, the Lesser Antilles, you could actually stick your tongue out and crunch, believe it or not, the dust that's in the air, and that is expected to go through the middle of the month of July. So that's probably going to keep things pretty quiet across the Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the southern Gulf of Mexico.
But it's just a run-of-the-mill dust storm, and there's two of them, one after the other. Imagine that. 2 dust storms. And so I'm not saying there aren't any dust storms. Anyway, that's one of the whoppers that stood out to me today, this week. Moving on to the next whopper. What do you think about that? Do you see through that? Do you see the tells like I do? Like we do? Moving on, here's the next thing. Apparently, dozens of people almost 30 people were stranded in one of those cable cars in Quito, Ecuador. When we were traveling in Eastern Europe, we went in a cable car. Remember, we met that Chinese young lady in a cable car, and I've always been really timid about cable cars for this very exact scenario that now has played out in Quito. It's like, well, what if some mechanical thing? You always read about Ferris wheels, breaking down and accidents happening and people getting injured or dying and this kind of thing. And the cable cars, it's machinery, folks. And machinery, if it isn't taken care of or managed properly, can get faulty and, cause a lot of problems. But apparently, a couple dozen people were stranded in it, and like over 40 people had to walk down the huge hill, because Quito is like 10,000 feet elevation, and it's just very mountainous there, and that's what these cable cars are all about. So about a dozen people were actually stuck in it for like 10 hours, a whole day. That's like it's like, I don't want to call it a phobia, but it's like something that I really would detest if it happened to me. All right, moving on to the next whopper. We talk a lot about the disinformation in this day and age, and this is not a thing that is really new, although a lot of people do think that this is a new thing since 2020, but really it's been going on for a very, very long time. And this is not a 2020 thing. It's been going on for many decades, I dare say even 100 years or more. But one of the things I ran into was information designed to take the weight off of, or the focus off of, who the real culprits are for what's happening to our lives and our purchasing power. For example, it said that, and this relates to Mexico, and a lot of people that are coming to Mexico, and if they're bringing in US dollars, they don't realize that the Mexican peso and the US dollar are on a funny business and have been, especially for the last year. And so what's happened is that these articles are trying to make it sound like the reason why Mexico is getting more expensive is because of it's all Mexico's fault. It's all because of these things that are particular to Mexico, and that it has to do with rising remittances from from the USA. Mexicans sending money to Mexico. I'm sure that's been going on forever. And juicy interest rates in Mexican banks, which we discourage people from doing for a variety of really risky reasons. But the article went on to say that these are the reasons why the Mexican peso is stronger. And sure enough, we've been here 2 years, and in the 2 years we've been here, our cost of living and everyone else's cost of living that is coming down here, with whether it's Canadian dollars or US dollars or even Australian or New Zealand dollars, has gone up 15 to 20% just in the last year. Mexican peso against the US dollar has been going down, where it takes, if you look at the chart, it's the same time frame as the US dollar going down.
All right, so we see here that last fall it topped out in the in October, November, September, October, November. Last fall it topped out, and it has lost, take a look at this, about 15% since just last fall. Now take a look at the Mexican peso. We see that starting last fall, also here is when we start dropping from those 20 to 21 level, from that level, and it just keeps dropping during the same time period to just below 17, which is also about a 15% drop. Isn't that amazing? Wonder of wonders, the same amount of drop as the US dollar, because it is the US dollar paired to the Mexican peso.
At the same time frame is when the peso also has been getting stronger, so less and less pesos per dollar. So it was around 20 to 21, and now it's right around 17 or just under 17, which just so happens to be a 15% increase in the strength of the peso, which coincides with a 15% weakening of the US dollar. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing how those two go hand in hand? But we're to believe that it's because of all those other reasons. It has nothing to do with the US dollar. And how many people know that when the communists took over back in the communist days of last century Russia in the 20s, they totally destroyed their currency. Their ruble was completely annihilated and destroyed. I mean, the purchasing power of people, and it's the same thing happening in right now in Argentina. So you're seeing this disinformation out there that is trying to get people to get their focus and their eye off of what's happening. How is it that a country can have their economy manipulated by people that set policy and interest rates. It's like the very core issue of this whole picture that I just discussed is the fact that the dollar is being devalued. And because of that, it's causing what people refer to as high inflation. It's called inflation. It's a kind of a funny term, but it is. It's inflation. And so because the manipulators, or I should say, managers of the economy, as people like to think that that's what's happening, in order to compensate for a robust rate of inflation, why all we've got to do is turn up interest rates, which of course kills off the real estate industry. And so therefore, not only is our stock market down, our real estate values are down, and our purchasing power is down. And I've always encouraged people to give serious thought to learn to be flexible in your spending, but most people have been scoffing at that. Where are we now, folks? Where are we now? We've been saying this all along, but my point was that how is it that central planning, aka communism, can literally control the financial lifeline of huge portions of the country? For example, it's no skin off my nose what interest rates are. I'm not in debt. But when you have a large percentage of the population that is in debt, you literally are, controlling their destiny and their fate, because you're controlling whether they can afford to buy, because they're buying with loans, and so the whole economy comes to a standstill because of the manipulation by the communists of the fiat currency, also known as uneven weights and measures, as it's called in the ancient scriptures. All right, with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Whoppers. Thanks for coming to the video, and have a wonderful day.